There are new products coming out all the time that are more convenient than running regular cables, that are smarter, can do more, stream more. And today we're talking about one of those products, but more importantly, we are talking about whether FutureFi, active powered speakers with sources inside, are really the future of hi-fi. Or is it a red herring argument? We're also talking about these. These are the PSB Alpha IQ active power streaming speakers with Bluesound OS inside. Are passive speakers and amplifiers a thing of the past? Sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's find out together. FutureFi was coined by John Darko, who, in my opinion, is one of the most qualified individuals to ever talk about anything to do with hi-fi. If you're into hi-fi at all, you've probably seen in the last few years that there's been a move to powered speakers, active speakers, speakers that have some brains in them, sources already installed in them, so someone doesn't have to go out there and cherry pick a whole bunch of components, amplifiers, and things to get their music in their ears. However, that's kind of the point, isn't it? So my first argument here is, are powered active speakers with streamers inside even meant for us? And when I say us, I mean the audio enthusiasts, the audiophiles, the people that like to pick their own different components so that there's perfect synergy at whatever budget level you have, because you can run separates at pretty much any price at this point. And by running separates, you can also build a system in pieces if you don't have $1,000 or $1,300 laying around, which is what the price of the PSB Alpha IQs come in at right now. Retail's $1,300, street price on sale for $9.99 right now. Sounds like a lot for such a small speaker, but there is an argument for that price. So while this video is going to be somewhat of a review of the PSB Alpha IQs, I think it's more of a conversation about these FutureFi products in general. So let's talk about what I like and what I don't like about the PSB Alpha IQs. What I like, they're little, they're convenient. They actually play pretty loud for their size. We'll get into how they sound here in a second. But if you look at the back, there is all of the inputs that you need on one of these speaker units. Both of these speaker units are powered with their own separate power cord, which means there's no umbilical that's going from one speaker to the other speaker like we see on a lot of other powered and active speakers. So you have to have an outlet next to each speaker so that you can power each speaker. That could be beneficial for you, could be detrimental to you depending upon where you have the outlet. And you may be running an extension cord to be able to plug the other speaker in, which kind of negates not having to run an umbilical from one speaker to the other. Anyway, that may or may not impact you. But what I like about this speaker, it's got a hardwired Ethernet port here for your internet if you want, HDMI ARC, analog input 3.5 millimeters. So if you want to connect an analog source into this, you're going to have an RCA to 3.5 millimeter cable, which isn't uncommon, especially on products this size. Then you have an optical input. So if you want to run a CD or a gaming system, CD transport or gaming system into this thing, well, you certainly can. Subwoofer out right here, which you're gonna need. And then a phono input right here. So it's got a phono preamp inside. All of these inputs are run off of the Bluesound app in your phones. You're gonna have to download that. And that's basically the operations center for this speaker. I think there is a remote control that is available. I think you have to buy that separately though. So I like all of the inputs on the back. I think it's great. I like that they're small in size. Let's talk about how they sound. Took me a while to get these set up initially. Pretty much the only thing you do is you plug them in and then you pull up the Bluesound app and then you search for this device. It will put out its own Wi-Fi network if it doesn't connect automatically. Then you connect to that, then your Wi-Fi information and everything will be shared. Then it should download all the latest updates and all that good stuff, and then they will eventually pair together. There could be a hiccup, and I kind of had it to get the speakers to connect to each other. Since they're both Wi-Fi enabled, since there's no umbilical, it takes a while for them to recognize one another. Your mileage may vary. They may connect right away for you, but they did not for me. And I basically just had to keep unplugging them and replugging them in. Eventually, though, it was all good. I didn't particularly love the sound. I think they lack a significant amount of detail in the mid-range. There is tone controls in the Blue Sound app, but they're only treble and bass. And despite my best efforts to boost the treble a little bit and cut the bass down, I still could not get the perceived clarity through the mid-range. It was always a little bit too warm for me and a bit veiled, really. And I could kind of accept that if these were $300, but at $1,300 or $999, somewhat of a deal breaker for me, especially when you have the elephant in the room, Weem, which is basically a direct competitor to Blue Sound. Since we cannot separate Blue Sound from these speakers, then we have to be able to talk about Weem. In their operating system, they have a 10-band EQ and a parametric EQ. So if I was actually running the Weem into the PSB Alpha IQs, I could have gotten the mid-range to sound how I wanted it to. Heck, for $70, you could buy a Weem Mini and plug it optical right into here. But then you're losing a bit of that value proposition, aren't you? Because the Blue Sound app inside these speakers is basically the only reason to buy these speakers. Without a mid-range control, without a 10-band EQ, I couldn't get these speakers to sound how I wanted them to. Now, they do sound good, and they're going to play all music good because you're not going to hear a ton of crystalline detail way into the music, so poor recordings are still going to sound good. Which kind of leads me to the conclusion that I don't know if these speakers are really for audiophiles. One of my favorite things to do as a hi-fi enthusiast, as an audiophile, is to hand pick all the different components that I want in a system, or build a system over time because I don't have the budget to buy something like the PSB Alpha IQs right out of the gates. Now, if you do have the budget and you have a use case scenario for a speaker like this, then I think it's great. Put these in your kid's room, put them in your cottage, your yurt, your hi-fi igloo if you're up north in the UP. There are many applications that you could use this speaker in, but I don't think it's going to be the main speaker for anybody. And I have a hard time thinking it's going to be the starter system for most people because they're just not going to have the budget. The people that do have the budget for something like this are going to be the Sonos crowd. They like their music. They want to hear their music, but they may not be concerned with the finite details of that music. As long as it's good enough, it's good enough for them. In that case, great product. I still think it's overpriced. Let's make an argument for the retail price, even the sale price of these speakers. PSB Alpha series, I think they're $300, $350, $400 for the same passive speaker, although I think the smallest passive speaker comes with a 5-inch. Anyway, so let's say $400. Let's say $400 for the amplifiers inside. We're at $800. Let's say $500 for the Blue Sound streamer inside. So there we are. We're at the retail price, $1,200, $1,300. So at $1,000, one could argue that these are actually a bargain. And they would be if it hadn't been for Weem or Wim. Now you may be saying, well, Randy, this is an amplifier. You're going to have to connect 2 speaker cables to this thing. And that's true. You got to connect 2 power cables to the Alpha IQs though. And then it's going to be the same amount of cables for all of your sources. HDMI cable for your TV, optical cable for your CD transport, RCA cables for your analog input, RCA and ground for your turntable. And the Weem is $300. And the ELAC connects $600. It was on sale for $400. So you could get a Weem Mini, you could get a Weem Pro, slap it on the back of the ELAC connects, and you're still coming in significantly lower than what PSB Alpha IQs are coming in at. Heck, you could take the Weem amp and buy yourself a very good pair of speakers, something like the Polk R200s, R100s, Emotiva B1 Plus if you can still get them, Polk Signature Elite Series, Klipsch, and we haven't even started talking about the Klipsch 7s and the 9s yet. You get something really affordable like the Sony SSCS5s for $150. And then you get yourself an affordable subwoofer, something like the Polk PSW10 or one of the Yamo subwoofers. That whole system could come in under $600. And you have all the functionality, if not more functionality. And the only inconvenience you have from that system, 2 speaker cables. I love Lenbrook. I love the products that they make. Unfortunately, I just think the PSB Alpha IQ suffers from a few things that will keep me from recommending it. 1 is the price. 2 is the sound. 3 is the functionality of the Blue Sound app, which I can't believe I'm saying, because Blue Sound really is the industry standard for a streaming platform, for an application that can allow you to do bass management. I don't think anybody saw Weem or Wim coming along, but they're here. There still isn't anybody out there that is doing what the PSB Alpha IQ is doing. The 7s and the 9s. 7s come in around $1,200, I think, retail. 9s come in at $1,500, but they were both on sale. So we are within shouting distance of the price of the PSB Alpha IQs. And those Klipsch speakers are big. And they have mid-range controls. And they have everything except for a streamer. But we've already established you can add a streamer for under $100. So while the PSB Alpha IQs kind of stand on their own out there and there's no real direct competition, the only argument that can be made for them is convenience. And a lot of audiophiles out there really like the inconvenience of picking out their own products. If this was coming in around $600, I think I could recommend it. Even at $1,000 on sale, unfortunately, this is a product that I just personally wouldn't buy. And if somebody asked me for advice on one of the functionality, I'd probably steer them in a different direction anyway. If this thing sounded better, I could probably recommend it, but that mid-range clarity is just a deal breaker for me. So sorry, I like Lenbrook, but I just think these speakers are overpriced. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms, Patreon-only Discord. You can use the links in the description. I will link these to probably Crutchfield and PSB's main site. The Crutchfield link is an affiliate link. The PSB link is not an affiliate link. Most of the links are affiliate links in the description, which means if you click and you buy, I get a commission. Doesn't cost you any more though, so it's a great way to support the channel. You can also buy me a cup of coffee. Down at the bottom of the video, there's a thanks button. Click, throw a couple of bucks my way, but don't feel compelled to buy me anything. Finally, you can just like this video and subscribe. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe, through your PSB Alpha IQs and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.